welcome back once again to After the Credits. So, got around to seeing another fairly recent release. Again, just like the previous one, it's been out for a little while, but not too far gone. And that movie is Lights Out. So, what did I think of Lights Out? Well, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more if the people in front of me weren't talking through the whole thing. They were just constantly, fiddling around with stuff, banging their popcorn bags around and, just, sitting there talking to each other, thinking no one else can hear them, giggling back and forth. They weren't even watching the movie. They're just kind of sitting there, bullshitting with each other. And just, they were right in front of me, so I got up and moved at one point, but there weren't that many people in the theater, so of course, once I moved down to a closer seat to have them behind me, of course they start talking even louder, just to be annoying. And I'm not the type to really go out and say anything and get people kicked out of the theater because they paid their money just like me. I did mention to one of the people that worked there that, it was really hard for me to see the film because people were talking through the whole thing. They did offer to compensate it for me, but I told them don't worry about it, it's not their fault. But, I could have got a free movie out of it. Why not? No. After working in a movie theater, you kind of shine away from that. It's just you let them know that, these certain people are kind of idiots and, you might want to keep an eye out for them if they come back, that you might have complaints in the future. So, any tension this movie would have tried to build to give me any type of jump scare, honestly, I just couldn't focus that much on the movie because these two kept talking and giggling and laughing, and anytime there was a tense moment, they just start talking about random shit, and I'd look down and I'm like, fucking really, and it's then I look back up and it's like, wait, what did I just miss? Because something happened, obviously there was some type of jump scare or something, because the music got all frickin' tense, but it's just so hard to focus on. From what I did gather of the movie, basically, there's a young boy whose mother has some type of mental disorder. She takes pills for it. They say it's depression and she's taking antidepressants, but actually she sees things that aren't there and talks to people that aren't there. That's not depression, guys. Learn your shit before you diagnose somebody. It's simple fact check. It's not depression. So we find out that she has this mental disorder, and the boy is seeing ghosts in the dark. You're not sure if he's just imagining it because of the mother's mental problems or if it's actually really happening, until the next scene where people start freaking dying. And it's okay, well, that guy's dead, so obviously the ghost is real. It's not just in the kid's imagination. So the kid has a strange sister who left because the mother's had this issue ever since she was a little girl, and she's now in her 20s, and her brother's maybe 7, 8, something like that. So she comes back to try and help out her brother and try and get her mother better, get her back on her medication because obviously she stopped taking it. And she starts to realize that this imaginary ghost is real and starts to do research into her, and we find out where she came from, why she exists, and how she's tied to the mother. And then it just kind of plays out, where the ghost kind of takes control and starts attacking the children, and the mother's like, I told you not, don't hurt my children, or I'll never speak to you again type of thing, and you can't exist without me, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, the ghost is like, screw you, and starts attacking the children. And over the course of the movie, there is a resolution. They stop the ghost, I guess. And that's pretty much the movie. It's not much different than any other movie you've probably ever seen. Like I said, any remote bit of tension it might have tried to build for a jump scare. First of all, they probably telegraphed them because every time somebody was walking through a dark area, it had that build-up music to where something's going to come. And it had a couple of jump scares that, like I said, they just basically startled me. They was just and it's oh, what? Oh, okay, yeah. And, I don't know, it didn't really do much for me. Like I said, I might have been more immersed if I was watching this at home by myself, without people in front of me talking through the whole thing. But, yeah, it wasn't super great. it had a lot of potential to be a decent story, but just the way it played out. And then once you finally see the ghost face, because it moves through darkness, so all you ever see is the ghost through like a shadow. Until like the very end, like the last 15 minutes, they actually show what the ghost looks like when the light hits it, and how that happens is actually pretty interesting. It was kind of predictable once it got to that point. It's like, let me guess, you're gonna be able to see the ghost, and this isn't gonna affect her, even though it's a light. If that gives it away. So yeah, then eventually it leads up, and you get to see the ghost, and I'm sorry, it looks like, honestly, go back and watch Evil Dead, the first one, way back when Bruce Campbell was a young man, and consider how low of a budget that film had and how cheesy they kind of look now, but how good they look for the time, the Deadites in Evil Dead. And then you look at this and you're like, wow, the Deadites look better than this ghost does. I remember back when I worked at the theater and Mama came out and everyone kind of made fun of the way the ghost looked in that. I never got around to seeing that one when it was at the theater, so I don't know what it actually ended up looking like. But I can only imagine it was probably something like this, because that's how ridiculous this ghost looked. Yeah, so more or less that's just kind of the way the movie plays out, is just kind of like everything else you've probably ever seen. Had potential to be a good story. There's actually a little bit of controversy behind this movie that I found out about the other day. It turns out that if you're familiar with creepypastas, you know, the whole thing on the internet where people read ghost stories to or make up ghost stories, it's where Slenderman originated from, and Jeff the Killer, and things of that nature. There are a couple people on YouTube here that do like dramatic readings of creepypastas, so you can kind of listen to them while you're doing other things instead of having to read them if you're not a big reader. One of these guys actually writes his own creepypastas. He writes short horror stories. And the controversy that I recently found out about was that he had written a short story, a creepypasta, back several years before the first hint of Lights Out ever popped up anywhere. And he kind of commented how, based on just the trailer of the movie, certain things reminded him of his story. And he kind of did a side-by-side comparison with clips from the trailer and his original dramatic reading of his own creepypasta. And strikingly, there are some similarities, a lot. Even if you go back and listen to his full creepypasta story, and then you go down and read the comments, some people even comment about, is this Lights Out? And other people commenting, no, this was long before Lights Out, you know, it's coincidence, whatever. So as he's kind of compared them now, he's wondering if the writer, director, I'm not sure, stole his creepypasta and made it into a movie. And upon doing some more research, it turns out that the writer says that a lot of his inspiration comes from things off the internet, such as creepypastas. Yeah, so if you're interested in checking that out, I think it's Creepspicpasta. Go check it out, and it's titled, the video's titled, Did Whoever Steal My Story? I might put a link for it down below, or like one of the little card things up here or something, if I can figure out how those work to kind of link you over to it. Or just go search for it on your own. It's really actually kind of interesting, the whole deal, but if that is true, then that kind of opens up a whole new can of worms as far as copyright, because now they're stealing things from the internet to use for their own accord, but then they can turn around and make false copyright claims against us if we review something of theirs. Yeah, you see that double-edged sword there? So, you know, it kind of opens up a whole new can of worms in that fair use fight that's been going on. But yeah, so enough on that side tangent. Let's get back to the review of the movie. What did I think of it overall? Like I said, it had potential, but just kind of fell flat. Might have enjoyed it more if the assholes in front of me weren't talking the whole time. What would I give it as far as a star rating? Maybe a 2. I was going to say 2.5, but honestly, it's just kind of a 2. It had a lot of potential. Like I said, go listen to the creepypasta that it may or may not be a direct ripoff of. That story is actually a little bit more entertaining, but overall, it wasn't horrible. It's watchable. Just don't go into expecting too much. It's kind of a basic film here, especially of the modern horror genre. So yeah, I'll give it a 2 based on that. So yeah, that is it for this episode. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links are in the description. And until next time, we will see you after the credits.